We go. Here we got tonight, very special guest. We're really, really grateful, Reb Shalom Popper. So first of all, thank you, 1,000 thank yous for coming on. Nice to meet you. And we know that you spent Pesach in Ukraine. Are you crazy? Don't you know there's a war in Ukraine? How in the world did you wind up in Ukraine? Tell us the backstory. When did that, whose idea was that?
Can you hear me?
We hear you perfect, yes.
Okay, so first of all, it's not the first time I've been to Ukraine for Pesach, or at all in Ukraine. I've been going for a couple of years already to Ukraine for Pesach to do the Seder over there. A few years in a row already, besides for COVID, obviously. 2-3 years I wasn't able to go. But I've been going to Ukraine for a couple of years. How did I end up in Ukraine? I'm an American boy from Brooklyn. So there's a program called Merkaz Shlichus over here based in Brooklyn in 770. Chabad headquarters, that they send out boys throughout to different places in the world, different locations in the world, twice a year on Pesach and during the summer. And when I signed up a few years ago, it was probably, I don't remember how many years ago, but when I signed up, first time I went to Ukraine, and since then I've been going to Ukraine. Every time I've been going to Ukraine, and that's already a couple of years. So this year, the main headquarters was not sending to Ukraine actually because of the war, but I have a friend that lives in Ukraine, and he told me that in his city, Zaporozhye, it's a city in somewhere in eastern Ukraine, and he told me that over there, his parents have left a few weeks earlier because of the war, and there's no one to do the Seder there, and the war has, a little bit before Pesach time, the war has quieted down. So he asked me if I want to go with him and do the Seder there. So that's how I ended up there in Ukraine.
Wow. Okay. So when you made these initial arrangements, it was before the war had started, after, like when did you?
No, it was after the war started. It was actually after the war had calmed down a bit. I wouldn't go, obviously, if there was still constant.
Not crazy, you know.
Yeah, but so the war had calmed down a bit. So
were you scared?
So I'll tell you the honest truth. So coming into Ukraine, there's no airports working within Ukraine now. The airports, we had to fly to Moldova, and from Moldova we had to go in. We had to take a car. And we have to go around, not to go through Russian occupied territory. So we had to go a whole round, about a 12-hour drive, until we got to the city, that Zaporozhye, where we were.
So give us a little geography lesson here. Where is Moldova? How do you get there? And how does Zaporozhye?
Zaporozhye. So
that's like
Zaporozhye. So if you guys are following a little bit the general thing of the war, so there's Donbass, which are two oblasts. Oblasts in Ukraine is a region. They don't have, like over here we have cities and states. So over there they have cities and oblasts. Oblast is a region. So there are 3 regions in the east. That is Donetsk, Lugansk, and Kharkov. So that's where the war is mainly concentrated, in the east. And on the south, there's also a few oblasts in the south where the war is going on, which that is Nikolaev, Kherson, Odessa. And so that's like a corner. Over here is Donbass, Donetsk, Lugansk, Kharkov, and over here is Kherson, Nikolaev. So Zaporozhye Oblast, Zaporozhye region is right in the corner over there, like after the southern regions, which the Russians are fighting now, and after the eastern regions. So over there in the corner, in the southeast, that's where Zaporozhye region is.
I have a question.
Sure.
Nikolaev is in Ukraine.
Yes, Nikolaev.
That's where the Rebbe was from, right?
Correct.
So do you think there's any coincidence with this war and the Rebbe being born there?
We know there's no coincidence in the world. I don't know the significance of it, but there's obviously no coincidence in the world whatsoever. Everything that happens is by divine providence.
Right. Thank you.
So you went with yourself, you went with a friend, like give us a little bit of a sense of this.
Yeah, so I went with my friend. He's the son of the rabbis there. So he was mainly, we were dealing with two different stuff. We were together all the time, but we were dealing with, he was dealing mainly with taking out, was helping evacuate refugees from, he wasn't doing it himself, but he was making arrangement to evacuate refugees from Russian occupied territories and helping them come to safe grounds, while I was dealing mostly with the Jews in the congregation over there in the community of Zaporozhye itself.
So let's get, do you speak Russian? Do you speak Ukrainian? I mean,
Yes, I speak Russian.
you speak Russian. Okay.
Yes.
So you felt a little bit maybe comfortable. Now you said you're from Brooklyn, US. Did you contact the US Embassy? Did they say, did you ask? Does your mother know that you went to Ukraine?
Yes, my mother knows that I went to Ukraine. My mother, I can't say she was ecstasy,
Ecstatic.
she was very excited about it.
You couldn't
but,
go to
she was
Virgin
okay with it.
Islands or someplace like that?
Yes, as I said, it's not. I've been going to Ukraine for many years already. It's not the first time I'm going to Ukraine. But just to get back to what you asked me before about the being scared, whatever the war situation over there. So going into Ukraine, so between every city there are checkpoints. There are military checkpoints that you have to go through. And you asked if I contact the U.S. Embassy. So at one of the checkpoints, the Ukrainian soldier took my passport, started going through my passport. He's looking for a couple of minutes. I asked him, is there an issue? So he told me, no, there's no issue. I just never saw an American passport before. So that was
okay. So the Ukrainian soldiers were happy to have you there. They were suspicious of you. They thought, well, this is great that
I thought they're going to be suspicious, but no. Actually, more suspicious than the Ukrainians were the Moldovans. They asked me, why are you going to Ukraine? They thought I might be smuggling something because no normal person goes to Ukraine now. But the Moldovans were suspicious. The Ukrainians were not, mostly they didn't make any problems.
Okay, so the community that's currently in the city, which I can't pronounce, is this the whole community? Have people left? How many Jews are still there? Like, what's the facts on the ground there from being there?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, this region is the closest both to the eastern regions where the war is and to the southern region where it's in the corner where the war is. So the war has reached this region, and currently about 80% of the region is under Russian control. So obviously there are people that have left the city, and there are sirens going on in the city, going off in the city pretty often. There are sirens. We've heard a few explosions, not really close explosions, but we've heard the explosions from far. So there's obviously many people that are.
We're used to gunshots here.
Yeah. So we've heard. So many people have left. The problem is that in Ukraine there's a law currently that anyone from the ages, any male from the ages of 18 to 60, cannot leave the country because they're of military age. So that's why many people have sent their families out, but they themselves have stayed because they cannot leave. So there were hardly any women and children. There were hardly any. By the Seder, we had, I think, 2 women and 1 child out of the whole community because everyone else has left. But, and also for Yizkar, where usually normally many more people come for Yizkar at the end of Pesach. So there were maybe two old people because the old people also can leave. So maybe 2 old people. But besides for that, you go in the street, you don't feel like it's empty. You don't feel like it's a ghost town. You go around, you see people walking, stores are open, and life is running pretty normally over there.
Were the people afraid to go out to come to the Seder? Or did you have people reluctant to come, anti-Semitism or whatever?
So I'll just address this 2 points separately. First of all, regarding anti-Semitism, I haven't seen any anti-Semitism in my whole visit, so I don't, I haven't seen it. Could be there is, I just haven't seen it. Regarding people coming to the Seder, so this is a point that I wanted to address. There is a law in Ukraine, throughout the whole Ukraine, there's a curfew. Actually, every night, you're not allowed to walk outside after 9 p.m. So regarding the Seder, so what did we do? So thank God the rabbi of the city, he's not in the city currently, but we stayed in his house. And he has a pretty big house. So we said that whoever comes for the Seder will sleep over.
Okay.
And we'll stay over. And many people came. And they all stayed over.
Now, in relative, you said you've been there before. So let's say when you were there, I don't know, whatever, before COVID 3 years ago, how many people came to the Seder? And this year, how many people?
So I haven't been to the same city, so I can't tell you.
Okay.
I can't tell you regarding this city. I can say that there were, I think, over 20 people by the first Seder that stayed overnight. Anyone that came out to stay overnight? By the first Seder, we had like 20 people. By the second Seder, we had a little less, but also there was a nice amount of people. And
how did
there
you
was
get matzahs and meat, kosher? Like, how did that work out?
So matzahs and most kosher products you can still get within Ukraine. I did bring with me a lot of kosher meat just in case there's going to be any problem. I brought with me also kosher wine in case there's going to be a problem, but factually you can get it within Ukraine. It's no problem currently.
And where is it coming from? It's coming from Israel. It's coming locally. Like, where do you get?
Mostly locally from Dnepropetrovsk. That's not.
So how far away is that?
That's about an hour away from Zaporozhye.
Okay, so people are able to drive there and go grocery shopping and so forth. I mean, it's sort of functioning in that way.
Yes, we actually went there during Chol Hamoed, on Pesach. We went there, we traveled there. Actually, on the way there, we had two army jets fly directly over our heads. We had no clue if they were Russian or Ukrainian. They were probably Ukrainian, but that was a bit scary. But yes, so
did you see,
Rabbi, are there any restrictions on what you're able to bring in to the country, like wine and stuff?
There are regular tax restrictions. No. I'm saying whatever you can bring in normally, you can bring in now. I think so. We weren't told of any separate restrictions that there are currently.
And are the Jews there talking about getting out when they can, or are they anticipating that the war will eventually come to an end and they're going to stay? I mean, what is the sort of mood on the ground there?
That's a very difficult question to answer. There are some that really want to leave, that especially those that their families have left, and some of them, their families have already settled in Israel and their kids started going to new schools in Israel. And so they obviously don't want to stay with their family, far away from their families. So there are those that do want to stay. And there are those that, especially the people that are more connected to the Jewish community, some of them will go to a different Jewish community in Israel or elsewhere, but some of them feel really connected and they don't want to leave.
Wow. And is in that city that you were in, were the homes destroyed? Was there damage, or are the people there a little bit insulated from the war? I mean, we're seeing newsreels of buildings being blown up. Is that where you were or not?
So there were no buildings blown up in the city that I were. I'm just saying it could be there were buildings blown up. I haven't seen any buildings blown up. There was almost constant, especially the first days of Pesach, there was almost constant sirening. One of the days of Pesach, there was a missile that fell on the train tracks in that city. We heard a big.
How far away was that from you?
That was probably away. It wasn't close to us. It was like a couple of miles away from us. A good couple of miles away from us. Wasn't really close by, but we heard the explosion pretty clearly.
And in the parts of Ukraine where the war has really been raging that we're seeing on the news, I mean, what are those Jewish communities? Have they moved within Ukraine? Have they left? What's going on with the communities and Seders and Chabad in those areas?
So, as I mentioned before, the person I went with, the boy I went with, he was dealing mostly with those communities. And when I left Ukraine, I actually left Ukraine on a bus that was arranged by Chabad that was carrying a bunch of refugees from Kharkov. And then when I left Moldova, I met over there a whole bunch of refugees from Nikolaev, which are both cities which are currently being heavily shelled by the Russians. So I know that I don't know exactly what's going on in each city details. I know what the people told me, that in Kharkov, many houses are being bombed and many people are staying within the synagogue. Many people are sleeping there or are staying there. I don't think any rabbis have stayed in Kharkov itself, but I know that there are Jewish activities going on over there. Within Nikolaev, I know that people were telling me that there's prayers going on, there's regular services going on, but Nikolaev, the situation is pretty hard in Nikolaev, because as they've told me that a couple of weeks ago, the main water pipe. A bomb fell on the main water pipe, and since then there's no water in the city. So there's no. So if you want to drink, you have to go buy water in the store, but there's no showering. There's no bathroom. There's no anything.
Oh my. Oh my. Wow. Okay, so we always like if you have like a specific story, maybe something that encapsulates what your life experience was like. You know, you take off from Kennedy in America, and you come into this circumstance. Or can you share with us, a story, somebody that you met, or what it was like for you, please? This is amazing.
So when we came, before I was about to leave, so one of the guys, when we weren't there were services going on. The regulars were coming to shul often, and they were running the services themselves. They weren't able to read the Torah. They weren't able to that. So before I left, actually, a guy comes over to me, and I found this really touching. A guy comes over to me and he tells me, Rabbi, I know you're leaving soon. Would you mind sitting with me a little bit and teaching me how to read the Torah so that after you leave, we can still have the services going normally and somebody reading the Torah? And I found that really inspiring and really.
Wow. In the midst of all of the war and everything, that was his concern. Who's going to read the Torah when the rabbi leaves? Well, thank you. Wow. What a story. Anybody got a question they want to jump in before we let them go? We want to be respectful of the rabbi's time and not keep them too long. But if somebody wants to jump in, we'll give you a moment right now. Otherwise, we're going to say, Yasher Koyach to you. Wow, unbelievable. To go into Ukraine. This is the Rebbe's message, to bring light where there is so much darkness. The message of Pesach. And may Hashem bring us to the time when we will study War No More, and it'll be a time of eternal peace. And this year in Jerusalem. So thank you so much. Okay, everybody.
Like to see pictures?
Yeah. Oh, you got pictures? Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, good thing.
I don't have many pictures.
I think I have to make you a co-host here. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that. Give me a second.
Rabbi, did 770 help with expenses?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I got to make you a co-host here, I think, right? Can you share?
I'm trying to share screen.
Yeah, let me see if I can help you. I got to make you a co-host here. Make co-host. Okay. I made you a co-host. Wow, you got some pictures. Yeah, please.
I don't have many pictures, but I can show you some pictures that I have.
A few pictures would be fantastic. Yeah, please do. Okay. You should be able to do it now. I made you the co-host.
Yeah, okay. Share.
You could WhatsApp a couple of them to me. I can share them with people. Here we go. Okay.
So this is a picture of us burning the chametz with the community.
Oh, wow.
That's me in the corner. And this is the whole community. We're burning the
chametz.
Looks
like Lincolnwood.
This man over here, if you can see this man with the beard, he's the one. He's the one that asked me to teach him how to read the Torah.
Okay.
He's actually been doing great work since all the rabbis left. He took some Torah books in Russian, and he's been giving daily lessons since all the rabbis left. He himself he's not from a religious home. He's not he hasn't grown up religious, but he knew the Rebbe's message always was that if you know Aleph, you teach Aleph. And then when you learn Beis, you go on and you teach Beis. So he's been giving Torah lessons every day in Russian in the synagogue. This is, one second, this is a very, very warm Jew. His name is Akiva. He's one of the Jews over there in the city. His wife and children are currently in Israel. This is Havdalah on the last day of Pesach. We made the Mashiach Suda, the Mashiach's meal that we do on the last day of Pesach. So also whoever came, there weren't many people that came. There were about 5 or 6 people that came. So we did it with them. We drank the 4 cups of wine that we drink also at the end of Pesach. And we're making Havdalah at the end of Pesach. This is the rabbi's house, as you can see. It's a very nice house. This is also Havdalah. This is me reading the Torah over there in the synagogue. And it's about it.
Ooh, that's the shul. Can you make
that's
that
the shul, yes.
Bigger?
This is the shul. I'll try to make it a little bigger. No, this is a video. It's not a...
No, let's hear the video. But yeah, wow, look at that shul.
Yeah.
That's stunning.
It's a nice shul.
Gorgeous.
See if I have another picture of the shul from a different dimension a bit. Oh, here, this is davening in the shul.
Beautiful. Look at
I
that.
don't know if you can
shul.
hear if you can hear the sound, but
So you have to share your sound. You have that on your.
whatever. It's
computer.
just it's davening, regular
We
davening.
got it. Beautiful.
Yes,
So that's
amazing.
it.
Nice. If you could WhatsApp me a couple of those pictures, I'll post
Yeah,
them.
sure. I'll
That's
WhatsApp
great.
them, and maybe if I find some more pictures, I'll WhatsApp you the rest of the pictures.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Wow. It's fantastic. So alive. Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it.
All the
Anyone else
best.
got a question or want to jump in? Mel, you always got something good to say.
I just want to say, this rabbi's an inspiration, isn't he? I mean,
I only bring you the best. What do you think? I bring you some B guy. I bring you the A+ team. Yeah.
it's more than chutzpah. I mean, he knows there was a danger and he relied on Hashem that for such a good mitzvah, it'll work out.
Beautiful, huh?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
just amazing.
Yashika. Okay, Reb Shalom, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, everybody, tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 8:30 for Mimer. Okay, good night, everyone.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you, Shalom. Please, I'll send out the recording. And if you could WhatsApp me some of those pictures, that would be a lot of fun too. Really appreciate it.
Maybe
Okay,
text us which mimer. Send me a text. Send us a
I'll
text.
send it to you tomorrow. Absolutely. Okay, good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night, 8:30.
Bye, Bob.
Good night, everybody.